missing persons case for you this evening. I will be posting a missing persons case on my Patreon this week as well. So it would appear to be Missing Persons Week. And I just kind of get in trends like that. But anyway, if you've been on my channel for a really long time, you know that I like to do cases where I can tell you so much about a person, their favorite color, when they were born, where they were born, their parents, their siblings, etc. Unfortunately, for this case, I can't do that. I really tried to dig up some information about the couple that we're going to talk about in this video, John and Shelley Markley. Here's what I got for background information. John was 36 and Shelley was 31. They got married in 1979. John was last seen with his wife Shelley at their home on Greensville Road in Bristolville, Ohio, December 15th, 1995. John and Shelley had 5 children, 4 girls. Their oldest daughter, Ruthie, was 15. My stomach is grumbling, I'm so sorry. Followed by Stacy, 14, Bonnie, 13, Crystal, 12, and one little boy, Johnny, age 7. Their 5 children went to school that morning on December 15th, and when they returned home that afternoon, the house was unlocked, and their parents were gone. The Markleys' red and silver 1990 Chevy pickup was missing from the house, and there was no note left behind explaining where their parents had gone. There was no sign of a struggle when the kids went inside, but upstairs in the Markley residence, the gun cabinet was found open. It was normally shut and locked at all times. It was not something that their father played around with. A small safe in the master bedroom was open, and on the bathroom sink, birth certificates and other important documents were scattered around. The bed was unmade, and some of John and Shelley's clothes were on top of their bed. These clothes were laid out for a funeral that they were to attend later on that evening. The coffee pot in the kitchen was still on and had nearly boiled dry. John's wristwatch that he normally wore all the time was on a shelf by the stove. Shelley's cigarettes, cigarette case, and lighter were on the kitchen counter. Shelley was a pretty vigorous smoker, smoking over a pack a day, and she never left the house without taking her cigarettes with her. The cigarettes and the watch were just 2 things that these two did not leave the house without. And there was half a cup of coffee next to Shelley's cigarettes. In the garage, the tarps that normally covered John's 1978 Corvette were missing. He never left that car uncovered, so this was very strange. The 5 Markley children understandably distraught over his twin sister's death, and he planned to attend the wake and funeral with his 5 children. And this day also happened to be the birthday of the Markley's youngest son, Johnny, who was turning 8. Shelley's sister Linda said that John and Shelley were dedicated parents. They loved their children very much, and they were quite protective of them. Linda said there's absolutely no way that they would willingly ever go away and leave their children unattended. The family went to the funeral without John and Shelley after they didn't come home. The aunt and uncle reported John and Shelley missing to the police at 12:30 a.m. John's truck, the Chevrolet that I talked about earlier, was later found locked and abandoned in the parking lot of a store in Bristolville, Ohio, 10 miles from their home. No one could recall how long the truck had been there. The doors were locked, the keys were missing, and inside the truck was the couple's cellular phone, and in the bed of the truck was a tire for a semi-trailer and the tarps that had been on the Corvette. Family members said the truck, which was pretty dirty, looked like it had been driven off-road, and this was not something that John and Shelley did. The last transaction made on the Markley's checking account was at 10:36 a.m., 2 hours after their children last saw them. A personal check for $1,000 was made out to cash, and it was signed by Shelley. It was cashed at Bank One in Bloomfield, Ohio, leaving a balance of $865 in the bank account. The teller at the bank drive-through window stated that she remembered seeing the Markleys pull up in their pickup truck. John was driving and Shelley was seated in the middle between her husband and another man whom the teller was unable to identify or describe. Say what? I mean, maybe she could only see his legs, but John was employed as an independent truck driver at the time of his disappearance. He had no criminal record and no life insurance policy. Shelley was a stay-at-home mom, fully dedicated to her children. They had been married 16 years, like I mentioned. Their home was fully paid for. They left behind a freezer they had stocked full of food for the coming winter. Hundreds of people searched hundreds of acres around Greenville Road. An air search was conducted. Divers checked the lakes and waterways, including Nelson Ledge's Quarry, Mosquito Lake, and Lake Milton. The family tried everything. They tried psychics. They went on the Montel Williams show. Do y'all remember that show? And the Maury Povich show. And the Markley's story was aired on Unsolved Mysteries. Absolutely crazy. In 1996, Stephen Durst, who was age 45 at the time, he was convicted of extorting the Markley family for $10,000 in exchange for information on their parents' whereabouts. He was sentenced to 4 to 10 years by the Trumbull County Common Pleas Judge Andrew D. Logan. He claimed that he was not the man who called the Markleys several times asking for money or demanding money for information. He was arrested after the police stakeout at a gas station where the caller was supposed to pick up a bag of money. Instead, the bag was full of rags. His appeal of his conviction was dismissed in 1998. He also failed several questions about John and Shelley's disappearance. sheriff's department still has the Markleys pickup truck, and Sheriff Altier remains hopeful that this case will eventually be solved. We just need that one tidbit, and hopefully we can do some indictments. In 1999, John and Shelley were declared legally deceased. I didn't know you could do that quickly. I read a portion of an interview from the children, and it just absolutely broke my heart. They said they missed their mother, who managed to take all 5 children with her when she went to the grocery store, and their father, a disciplinarian who refused to let his daughters date until they were 16, but was full of love for his family. Being the oldest, Ruthie was constantly reminded of the well-meaning but perhaps misguided adults that she needed to be strong for her younger siblings, but Ruthie said that she could never really deal with her parents' disappearance. She told herself, "You've got to turn cold. That's how you'll deal with this." Stacy lost herself writing in a diary. She would never let anybody read it because it was so angry, she said. All the sisters agree that the worst part of this ordeal is not knowing where their parents are. Even if we find out they're dead, it'll be over, Ruthie said. I cannot with that. I understand. It has been since 1995, and the Markleys have been missing all this time, and not a trace of them has been found anywhere. And I absolutely hate to tell you that. I want to tell you about their wild love affair and how they got together and how they're so happy. But I can't do that because they just disappeared. I find it very strange that there was some man in their car and they went through the bank for $1,000, or that's very odd to me. Did this person just show up at the house? Like, there's no sign of a struggle, but they clearly got some important documents. But the gun safe was open, but the gun was never found. The coffee pot, they didn't even turn off the coffee pot when they left. That's so weird to me. Shelley didn't grab her cigarettes or anything. So that to me seems like someone showed up at that house and said, "Let's go, we gotta do this." What? I don't know. The truck found 10 miles from home with the tarps in the back. That's so odd to me. Because really, if they had murdered them and put them somewhere, they would probably be with the tarps. As far as I could tell, the tarps didn't have any evidence, any blood or anything like that. They were just in the back of the truck. They clearly weren't covering John and Shelley's bodies up in the back because John and Shelley were in the truck when they went through the drive-thru. It completely breaks my heart that these kids grew up without their parents. I understand Ruthie saying, you have to take care of your siblings and, we'll figure something out, but that's gotta be incredibly difficult on a teenager. I mean, to grow up without your mom. Have you had those important conversations? At this point, they weren't allowed to date. They haven't had their first kiss or potentially their first dance or any of those questions that you just really need to ask your mom about. And then for little Johnny, he was turning 8. It was his birthday. Can you imagine your birthday being the day that your parents just disappear? Would you ever want to celebrate that ever again? My answer would be no. What terrible memories to go with your birthday. I know that this is a shorter case than what I have been posting, and I know that most of you guys don't like shorter cases, but I really felt like this was one that I needed to share. Missing persons cases, as I mentioned on my Patreon video that you haven't seen yet, they're very important to me because I think if just one person can learn of this case that didn't know about it, that maybe saw something that they don't even know that they saw, then maybe we could get some head something. Maybe someone knew the Markleys and really didn't think about it, you know? I don't know. It just seems absolutely strange to me, this case. I mean, with the wristwatch, why didn't he take his watch? Clearly wasn't a robbery, because somebody probably would have taken that watch to